Hello, how are you all doing today? Yeah, I don't know what's happening, but it's it's fine. Let me check my phone. So I did 4 laps today. Usually I do 2. If I'm feeling extra frisky, I'll do 3. But today I was like, why not go for a 4th lap? So I did 4 in the cemetery, and I started watching back the video from last night, and when I watched it back, I didn't finish it because I was gonna put in the TLDW and timestamp it. The too long didn't watch. I think I'll try to, especially for videos that don't already have timestamps. I think I'll do it anyway. Especially if I hit a recap at the end of the video. You know what I mean? But anyway, I was watching it again and I caught some stuff that I didn't necessarily catch the first time. And so this is going to be a continuation. After this, I'll go back and I'll find the point where I kind of recapped it and I'll timestamp it. So, like, if you didn't watch that one, you can go right to it. Or if you want a refresher, you can go right to it. Sometimes, I don't know if it's always necessary, but I like to try to bring it down, to reality. Hola, Kirsty. How are you doing today? How are you? You were on my mind. I feel like I'm so bad with reaching out to people. Somebody will come to my mind and it'll be like a hot second. Like Rob came to my mind earlier, but I didn't even send him a message. Oof. I'll reach out to him at some point. But hey, Holly, how you doing? I know, right? Ooh, potential. Ooh, number 33. 66 came out yesterday. With number 6. That's the kin. Those are the kin, right? Yeah, that's the kin or the count. Okay. So anyway, I forget who. Excuse me. I'm gonna try to. I should have did this first. I'm gonna try to find the name of the person. Who was it? It should be right. Oh no, that's the wrong one. Nuska, the Mesopotamian god of light and fire. Um, who is the mediator between Enki and Marduk. So the Enki and Marduk, Enki is the father, or Enki was the father. Marduk was Marduk was the son, and they had a tumultuous relationship by the end of it. I'm sure after Marduk, whatever. But when I read Akamar and I was reading Eridanus, Phaeton was the son and Helios was the father. So there was that father-son relationship both times. And then in the Wiccacraft, there was the 3. And Akamar, it was like for a long time, Akamar was the lowest point, the southernmost point in the river of Eridanus. But after we moved to more southerly places or more southerly individuals, I guess, looked at it, they actually saw a star below Akamar. It's like the river goes deeper than we thought it did. And that made me think of the three kins in Wiccacraft and how that last one was like completely black. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I never thought about, because it was always like there's the hermit that has the light of the Hierophant, and then there's the light of the self, and that was just the 2. But then it's like there's a place where there is no light. And when we venture further into that, like that's where the wellspring like actually sits or whatever. And so it was that like we're seeing more. So excuse me. In my 3rd lap, I think it might have been my 2nd lap of the cemetery, I reached the back and this squirrel kind of scared me because I heard this rustling and I'm like, whoa, what's going on? And it was a squirrel that was like trying to get under the fence. In my last lap, like 4 or 5 squirrels, like as I was walking, they just kept like running under the fence into the cemetery. And I'm like, I guess because there's a lot of trees in the cemetery, I don't know if they've been picking up all the acorns. I did notice today that a lot of the acorns are gone. Um, yes, well, we'll see. And so I was gonna pull before and after. There's the dynasty, but it's the tree of life with the flowering void. Um, I was gonna pull before and after. I might still start that way because I was gonna do before and after the necromancer in the wild. I keep saying wild unknown Vitruvian, and the SKT Vitruvian to see sort of like what we saw up to that Akamar, like where the lowest point that we sort of know now of that river. And then I was gonna go into the Revelations to pull to see what's highlighted within that last kin, specifically the dark one. But then it's like there's a lot of threads, and I had an idea kind of where to start, but then now that I'm here, I'm like, I don't know what to do. So we'll figure it out. But and then on my way home, I was like, there's this light that goes like super quick because there's like a busier street that intersects it. And I was quite a ways from the light and it stayed green. And then it turned yellow and red as I was passing through it. And there weren't any cars by that point. So it was like green light, time to go. Like, let's do this. And now I'm like, oh, what do I do? So a minute ago, I used the Legends Tarot. And in the Legends Tarot, we saw first it was the person on the dark horse. I think it's in the Devil card. Let me find him real quick. Because the High Priestess and the Chariot sort of came out. Not this one. It was this one. And then I was gonna, well, we'll do a few things. Again, like there are so many ways I can do this. Maybe I'll just do it all and then we'll put it together or we'll see how it fits. Is that the devil? No, that's the King of Pentacles. I'm gonna try to find these cards so I can show you. Like these are like a very pip deck, an extremely pip deck. So some of these, I'm like, is that the card back? But it's like, no, it's just hello? Hello? Okay. It wasn't this one. I think it was, here it is, it's strength. And then the High Priestess, I'm pretty sure, was the last one. Give me a moment. And then there was another thing. The Eight of Wands, the sharpshooter came out, and Jupiter hurled the bolt at the chariot when Phaeton was like, brought the sun too close to the earth and was scorching the planet. And it said that um, Zeus struck the chariot, killing Phaeton outright. And then, as a punishment for encouraging him, his sisters were turned into trees at the riverbanks. and then Wickedcraft is the elder, which is a tree. But it said that also on that riverbank is where the left foot of Orion is, and I'm pretty sure Orion is the hunter, right? Well, the sharpshooter came out with the chariot, the Eight of Wands in this deck, and was like, oh, the Eight of Wands, like that could be Orion, sort of right there. And then we got the trees. There are three kins in Wickedcraft. I don't know if there were three sisters, but I'll find it real quick. I was like, was that Orion? As I sort of try to piece my thoughts together as far as to how I'm going to proceed, I think I'm just going to lay out the foundation, and then we'll go from there in connecting whatever needs to be connected, or maybe it'll just come out complete. Where's the sharpshooter? Is the sharpshooter at the top of the deck? What? How? Wait. This happened with the other deck. Hold up. I flipped through the whole deck. And I missed the card I was looking for. Maybe it's like, don't get distracted. Okay, this is the last time, and then I'll start. Also, by the way, because I guess I'm sort of, I don't know how far I'm going to get into this video, because there's like a greater than 0 and much less than 100% chance that I might have to end this sort of semi-abruptly. If it happens, it happens. And if I come back to it, I do. If I don't, I don't. See, it's still pretty high. Is the card, like, did it fall on the floor and I didn't notice? Sharpshooter, where are you? I don't see it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm gonna just go for the cards. I'm not gonna look for it. So anyway, the sharpshooter came out, which is a huntress, and Orion is a hunter. And I was like, oh snap! I didn't even catch that at the time either. Hindsight 2020, watching it back and not necessarily being in it. The High Priestess. I mean, am I missing the High Priestess too? Hello? Like, she was at the bottom of one of the other decks. When I go looking for her, she's nowhere to be found. Where is she? Am I missing cards? The Hangman, I don't see her. She's in the... She was literally the one card left in the box. Oh my gosh. I looked through this deck twice. She was in the box. So first we saw this strength card. And it was her on the dark horse, right? And then the Knight of Wands came out, and it was her walking beside the light horse. And then at the end of the reading, the High Priestess came out, which felt like the one who has balance, who balances the forces of both within herself, and who has some kind of power because of it, right? And so I was thinking about how there are the horses of light and the horses of the horse of the light and the horse of the dark, right? In the chariot. There are two different horses. And as I was walking through the cemetery today, I more so thought about how Phaeton was struck off of the horses of light because Apollo's or Helios's chariot was pulled by two white horses, struck and fell into the river Eridanus. Then it's all like there's this point where he descends into the underworld, and in the underworld he goes through whatever underworld journey he goes through, and then it's almost like there's a chariot of the sun, the solar equivalent in the underworld, and he learned to pull that chariot. So that was like the dark horses that he learned to pull. Now with the necromancer that came out in the spot of this space that the sun is highlighting that we're unaware of, it's like there's a portal that allows sort of Phaeton to come back up to the surface, to be resurrected. Because Phaeton mastered the horses of the dark in the underworld, he gained the strength to pull their corresponding opposite in the overworld. but it's almost like instead of it just being the sun or just being the moon pulling, or like just the white horses pulling the chariot of the sun, or the chariot of the dark horses pulling the undersun, there's going to be one of each. And it's, I guess it's an eclipse energy, and we're coming into eclipse season, so it makes sense because there's one of the sun and there's one of the undersun. Two of Swords is here. Bottom of the deck is the Queen of Wands. Anyway, I'm just putting these back. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Ooh, I love raspberry tea. Pomegranate. I don't know if I've ever tried pomegranate, to be honest. But, pomegranates are associated with Hades, underworld. Well, I guess they're more so associated with Persephone. The only things that grow in the underworld, the pomegranate. So, and then there was something else. It was thanks to the magical Russell at Rustling Around and his golden shower that opened us up to Perseus. It was the energy of Andromeda that led us to both Cassiopeia and, or it was because Kurta is in Cassiopeia, Baton Kaitos is in Ketis. But anyway, there was that Andromeda Perseus thread as well. So, Bloomin' Rose, what's up? You've been on a fruit kick. I need to it's, I guess because I've been thinking about like all of those teas. I haven't drank tea probably in a year. It's been I don't know if I've drank tea since I've started working really. So it's been, all that tea is still up there. I need to drink the hibiscus. But anyway, who was it? Oh, snap. Russ is live. Again. Oh, because he had the leak. Wait. Oh, I guess he would be wearing the same shirt because it was earlier today. I was like, wait, did he find a way to re upload the other video? Russell at Wrestling Around is live. If y'all want to go over there, I'm going to finish this over here though. Not that I've even started it. But anyway, those were the threads sort of coming out. So I'm going to look before and after the. Oh. I'm going to pull this deck back out actually. I'm going to look before and after Wackens, because that's the Akamar that we understood. It's the toucans. And then I'm going to look before and after Wickedcraft as the Fool, the third one, what's being sort of revealed now. I pulled out the Tarot Apocalypsis because the sun in this deck is Mithras. And Mithras is the sun beyond Helios. It's like the true sun or whatever. So I wanted to pull before and after that, because maybe the reborn Phaeton can pull a chariot that even Apollo, Helios, didn't have the strength to pull. The greater sun. And then I wanted to pull before and after the Necromancer to symbolize, because that's the river that Phaeton fell into. The Necromancer brings things back to life, and the SKT, that's the moon. And then we'll go from there. My original plan was to get one card to pull to symbolize, because I took 4 laps around the cemetery. So it was going to be before and after those cards, and then before and after those cards to sort of symbolize every lap. But now with that Akamar, because that's something that I didn't even necessarily pick on at the beginning. All right. See you later, Holly. That's something that I didn't necessarily pick up on at the beginning, is that Akamar was as deep as we could go for a hot second, until we went further south. Then we could see oh, the river actually goes deeper. It almost feels like this is I don't know, It's the same mythological system. It's all Greco-Roman. I guess specifically more Greek, because it said from Greece, Acamar was the lowest point in the river Eridanus. But it feels like it's almost another. Maybe not. I was gonna say it feels like it's another entry into the underworld, another river that connects, like the Phlegathon, Styx, Leith, and I don't remember the fourth one. Acheron, Phlegathon, Styx, and Leith. It feels like Eridanus is like a fifth sort of river, but I guess that one, like, at least in this context, it feels like it would like come out of the underworld. It wouldn't necessarily go into it because of the necromancer rebirth energy rising of Phaeton out of the water. So I'll start with the runes. I'll do. Okay. So for the Watchers, because two kins is the Watchers, I'll use the SKT and I'll pair that with what comes out before and after the moon here. For Witchcraft, I'll do the same thing, but pair that with the Revelations edition. And then the Helios, the sun beyond, or Mithras, the sun beyond the sun, I'll pull out of here. And then we'll sort of see what happens. So all of these are already shuffled, but I'll give them a few more. And I'll cut it here. I want to pull that Legends deck again because the Pinnacles are wolves and the Watcher is the wolf. Here it is. And like the wolf has been coming out constantly in the antimony of the Wild Unknown Alchemy deck and pretty much any other deck that has wolves. The wolf has been coming out, and the wolf was the one that waited beyond the veil. So maybe wolf is the one that I don't know if it's like the one that Phaeton was working with in the underworld, but it feels like wolf is going to be watching the exit to it. And wolf has been popping up. And it's interesting because I know Russ mentioned that in this eclipse space, Venus is going to go into a superior or inferior. Venus is going to disappear behind the sun, and that symbolizes her either going into the underworld or coming out of the underworld. There was that Marduk thread again, because I know when Reem was initially running through the gates, she couldn't read gate 8 at that time. She had to wait. And then after some time, that gate opened. That's also why I'm pulling Mithras, the sun in the Tarot Apocalypses, because it's the gate beyond all that we can sort of be initiated into. It's the last one. It's the one in the dark. So we'll see which one comes out first. I'll pull from the bottom. The bottom is Treadle and Gar. Jar. I don't know. Share. The footsteps and the potential. And then there's Kin again. So footsteps, this is our path. This is how we walk. These are our choices and decisions. This is how we journey, progress, whatever. I wasn't even going to look for Kin, but Kin is like step one. It's the first before we get into the 2 of Wackened to symbolize Akamar being that point before we get into the 3 of Witchcraft, which was, let me find that star again because it mentioned it in that entry of Akamar, list of stars. Aries, here's Akamar. Where was it? I think it was, is it up here? In classical times, this star Acamar was the most southerly bright star in the river Eridanus that could be seen from the latitude of Greece. It marked the south end of the river until travelers reaching more southerly locations in the 16th century described the river as extending to Alpha Achernar. Achernar, from Arabic Allah here al Nar, the end of the river, was the early name for this star at the then recognized end of the stream. Various forms of its title are given under Alpha Achernar, but the name Akamar from the Alphonse tables is peculiar to the star Theta Eridanus. Okay, so there you go. Are they both? So is it Akamar and Achernar? It should tell me. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So Theta Eridanus is Akamar, and then Achernar is Alpha Eridanus. So I think this says that they go in order of brightness. Who knows? I don't know. I'm not. I was gonna say cosmetologist. The star one. It's Cosmo something. Just so the first kin is the potential. It's between potential and fame. So the potential is there. It's whether or not it's like how we and our journeys, actions, choices as we progress through our life. Because Treadle is here at the bottom. It's how we align to greater and greater potentials. And Fane is like it's following that sort of flow. So that's the first one. Do we need a card for that? That's the Fool. So, darn it, I only have 2 decks. Well, I have 3 decks on the table. I guess I'll go for it. We'll use the. I didn't want to use this one yet. It's fine. We're flowing. We're going. It's the. I'll use the Tarot Apocalypse. 1, 2, 3. Did a card flip over? No. Okay. Then I'll cut it. So looking before and after. Oh my gosh. Okay. So there's like 5, 6 majors at the bottom of the deck in order. They were the Star, the All Gifted, which is unique to this deck. It's Pandora in her box, the Empress, the Devil, the Chariot, and Judgment. Anyway. If I can, they should show up now. Here's the Fool, in between the 9 of Pentacles and the 3 of Pentacles. The 9 of Pentacles, the Fool in between the 9 of Pentacles and the 3 of Pentacles, I'm going to shuffle this again. It's an interesting energy because the 9 of Pentacles has so much self-sufficiency in it, because the 9 of Pentacles stands alone, but the 3 of Pentacles is a card of cooperation and of partnership. So maybe it's how well we could balance that sort of like dynamic. Oh, snap. Well, it makes me feel like I'm on to something. It actually came out when I was shuffling before too, or I saw it. Oh, I didn't want a card to fall out. The Wheel. Bottom of the deck is the Princess of Wands, who is Isis in this deck, with the 2 of Swords. The Two of Swords came out in the Legends Tarot. I'm going to put the wheel back and I'm going to shuffle this and I'm going to put this deck down. The wheel meaning like, so it's been the energy for a hot second is that Demeter / Ceres did not know how to let go of her daughter Persephone. Persephone being the pomegranate that Holly, almost said Haley, that Holly gave us with her tea today. And it was like, because Demeter doesn't allow Persephone to stay in the underworld, there's something that's supposed to transpire in the underworld that never happens because she has to keep coming back to Earth. And so there's like a cycle of completion that's supposed to have been reached where Phaeton becomes strong enough, where Baldur does whatever down there while Ragnarok is happening up top. And that's like a minute ago when I read like the difference between sort of like the Greco-Roman pantheon and story and the Norse pantheon and story. It's like in the Greco-Roman pantheon, Demeter got her way and the gods just sort of did whatever they wanted whenever. So they never had to mature. They never had to grow up. But in the Norse pantheon, Hel did not release Baldur. She was like, no, he's staying in the underworld. And then Ragnarok happened. And after Ragnarok happens, then he returns. And in preparation for Ragnarok, which was this point that they could not avoid and that they tried, they had to grow and mature in ways. And again, it's like it's something that the Greco-Roman pantheon never really had to do. So now it's like the Greco-Roman pantheon has been given through who knows what, the opportunity to mature. Venus has had to mature because she couldn't get Hades / Pluto, and Mars, the one that she always went to when she needed a boost and when she needed to feel herself. Mars was like, no, I'm not doing that anymore, because Mars was working with Saturn to like learn to put all of its energy to like a good use to be productive. And again, that's like the moon conjuncting Mars and Venus conjuncting the sun. Like they had to work on their opposites and balance their selves out. Now that that's happened in the Greco-Roman pantheon, hopefully Demeter can let Persephone go so that whatever was going through its completion can reach its completion, so that Phaeton / Baldur can reemerge and pull the chariot that he failed to be, he didn't have the strength to pull before, right? And so now it's almost like things are going to be less extreme too, because last time Phaeton was behind the wheel, the sun was too far and the earth almost froze, and then the sun was much too close and the earth was scorched before Jupiter was like, enough is enough. You know, I'm not my dad, I'm not Saturn, but you're going to make me behave like it. Because anyway, so these come out here. It's the balance between the individual and the collective. Literally, the Nine of Pentacles, the individual, the Three of Pentacles, the collective. And then Kusma, the moon, and the original birthright is behind that. The original birthright being that kin and a half reflected anyway. Wickedcraft is the first one that comes out. It's between Ur, Wild Ox, and Doxian. Oh, Night. Okay, I think because this is like the first version, the name changed. I was like, Doxian? What is Doxian? The Wild Ox and the Night. So this is, oops. It's that the whatever pulls the Undersun's chariot is this wild ox that's coming up to the surface. Or that's going to be like one of the horses attached to the chariot now. And see, like, so the whack end is these two. This is Akamar. This is Akranar. Like, that's the furthest we could see for a long time. This is here. So this one second. Stankness is before that Ur. So it's almost like before we could even roam. It's like it's partially before we could roam free. There was some trial that we had to pass. But it feels like it's also like in our journey of learning to free ourselves from a lot of attachments that we held on to for reasons of security, stability, and as much prosperity as we can get. Because Phao is number one, which is abundance, but it's an abundance that is formed because of what we sort of hold close. It's more Nine of Pentacles. But it's like in getting out of our comfort zone and expanding, it's almost like that process. Again, it's that self initiatory energy. Um, I'm going to move these to the middle. So, or Knight, Wickercraft. Chino was barking. And then Hagal is there. I'm going to pull these now. I'm going to give it one more shuffle. Oh, and I'm going to try not to like create too much air so that these little mini cards go blowing off the table. The Chancellor flipped over in the deck on my one shuffle, and we see her scales. So we're actually going to see, because I'm going to go looking for the Necromancer, I'm pulling before and after the moon. We're going to see these scales again, but Anubis is going to hold the scales the second time. This is more of that Mayat that holds the scales now. And we see the heart and the feather sort of balanced in this Chancellor. Oh, look, literally right at the bottom of the deck. Right at the bottom of the deck is the Necromancer. And it's coming out with the Scarlet Shield. So we only get one card for this one. In the Scarlet Shield, we see the bird eating the snake, which is what? Horus and Apep. It symbolizes order winning out over chaos at some point. But yesterday we had the Golden Shield, which was the Sanctum of Valor, or the Sanctum of Splendor. This is the Sanctum of the Valiant. Sanctum of the Valiant, giving a very sort of Valhalla / Valkyrie sort of energy. And I know like Russ has talked about the Valkyries recently, and in one of her videos, you could guess which. If I saw it, you probably know. It was one of two. Eve talked about the Valkyries as well. Archangel of Healing is behind the Scarlet Shield, though. But we're not going to pull her. Yeah. But that's the thing with the Valkyries almost sort of too, right? Is they take those who are deemed worthy that die on the battlefield, they take back to Valhalla to fight in Ragnarok. So it's almost like it's those who will serve, those who will fulfill whatever condition needs to be fulfilled for Baldur to be returned to Earth. Right. And then we have, like, we literally had Stankness there, which is the test. And the Valkyries grab those who are deemed worthy. So it's very like, congratulations, you've won. The thing about that, that makes sense, because this is night, right? The night rune literally came out, and we're pulling this for the Black Kin, for the one where there is no light. And it was at the bottom of the deck, symbolizing the most sort of like subconscious, the most background influence, the least immediate, least accessible, most underworldly. And it was like literally right there. But again, in this deck, it's the Necromancer. So it's the one that returns back to life. Oh, and here, the Chancellor, the Judge. We have Stankness right here. We have the judge right there. The Valkyries also judges. So judges are all over this. So it's very like, if this is an energy that you're experiencing, like know that everything that you experience within the periods of dark nights, within the periods of healing, growth, and working through trauma and stuff, like as things turn around and as you emerge to balance all of that out with the light of the sun, and as you sort of move, I almost want to say move yourself forward, but as you both move yourself forward and work with divine energies that are moving us forward, um, it's like know that you've already put in the work, you've already been deemed worthy. So there's no need to, human's going to be human, but there's no need to think that you don't deserve whatever is coming for you, or there's no need to be hesitant as you move forward, because the work has already been done. You've already proven yourself. And there was a part of this where it's like it's not even necessarily about you proving yourself to someone else or you proving yourself to the divine. It's like that was a part of it, yes. But there's also a part where you prove yourself to yourself so that you know that you're capable, so that you don't sabotage it. So that if you face a challenge or if you have a moment, you can pick yourself up and keep going. I also think it's interesting that that came out before this. So for me, that sort of signifies that it's like, yeah, we're in this space of rebirth. Like we've done what we need to do to proceed. That's why the gates are open. That's why the Fata Morgana is falling. And like that energy is sort of establishing itself sort of here. So now let's keep going to find the Wackened, the Toucan Wackened, Toucan Sam, Toucan Wackened. Oh, here it is right here. Oh, this is interesting. So we have Hang True, which is Hanged Man energy. Hanged Man was also read in, I think it was in Akamar. No, that was in Kurda, because it talked about Cassiopeia and how Andromeda's parents, there was a constellation, and it talked about judges, and it was like it can be severe, like the judgment can be severe. I guess I can pull that up real quick since I'm right here. um but that was like 24 degrees Aries. According to Ptolemy, Cepheus is like Saturn and Jupiter. It gives authority and a sober mind, sometimes making its natives judges or arbitrators, but exposes to cruel and severe trials. If Mars afflicts the luminaries from Cepheus, especially if in an angle, it causes death by hanging, decapitation, crucifixion, or impalement. Now, yesterday I was like, oh snap, it's at an angle, but afflict, it's not like it would be in a favorable angle. So it's not necessarily an affliction. I think affliction would be like a square or an opposition, but it's in sextile to Aries. So, we don't have to worry about that. But Hangman, Hang True, is sort of here before this. And it's interesting because again, the stankness was here. What's most interesting about this is because Stankness is here and then Hang True is here, it almost feels like being unfairly subjected to a punishment. Or it's like a punishment that's more severe than the crime that was committed. But with it coming out Stankness, it's like it was like we bore the punishment anyway. And we learned whatever, and we're going to sort of be compensated for that. So here's another tree. Speaking of the trees by the riverside, it's Poplar, Bjork, Begin. This is the birth. And look, we see the Wacken and the line. This silver line. Oh, look, it's the silver and the gold too. That's funny. This silver line is the mirror. So we don't yet see it reflected on the other side, because that's what the end of yesterday was about. It's like there are these things that we're doing within ourselves, and every kin and a half we complete, it's going to be reflected. the reflection of that created, like, it completes those Gananga gaps and it opens up more and more and more potentials. Yeah, this is potential. I was like, I feel like the card of potential was already here. And see, like, there's this line of the dark and the line of the light. And they're like, they're bringing these potentials together. And that, it feels like that's what Libra season, or that's what a part of this mystical Libra season has been about. As I was on my walk, because I listened to that point in like my last lap, like especially with the timing of Steph gifting me the Wild Unknown Alchemy, it was like, it was this weird energy where it's like with Libra, it's like if you want more water, you have to be more fire. But it's this almost mystical understanding of how alchemy and reflection and some of the laws, the Kabbalistic, sure, the whatever laws work, where it's like we want more water, but we can't create water ourselves. But we can set something ablaze. So what we do is we create more fire and then we allow the universe at large and in all of its properties and principles and rules to balance out that fire with more water. And so that's why it reads like alchemy. That's why it reads like some kind of knowledge. We do within ourselves what we can do, so that then, like, we go through those processes of purification within ourselves to make ourselves ready, to make the vessel ready to receive that gift from the divine, to position ourselves for when this mirror to rise, like, it will sort of like we'll have these complete, and then it will complete these gateways, these potentials, and then we step through them. But it's interesting again, like this card came out right before Wackened. So this is two kins deep. This is the Akamar, and the other one was the Akrenar. Again, it's interesting that where is, well, let me see real quick where Alpha Akrenar is. Because that's not even the space that's being illuminated by the sun. Right. But again, like that's the thing about Wackened. We have to go into the dark. The sun is illuminating a void that once we go through, we find the actual brightest star. Akamar ain't even on here. Akamar isn't on here. Oh, these are lists of constellations. So it's an Eridanus. And then can we click through to Akamar? Phaeton. It doesn't look like it. Darn it. I mean, I would think that it would be somewhere close-ish to. I guess I can control F search. Anyway. Oh, wait. I was saying it. So I was saying Wacken. It's Wackend. Or Wykened for the Watchers. But under the Watchers is Wacken, which is to waken. So we have begin in the 18 and we have waken. This is the beginning of that awakening. The completion of it happens in, and then we have day purged. We have day purged where we had night come out before on the other side of this. But let me, oh, I have cards on the freaking table, so I can't even control F. Darn it. Maybe I can click through it on this. Or I'll have to get on it on my phone. Or maybe it doesn't matter. But I'm curious. It doesn't matter. There I go, trying to get distracted again. We have the beginning of an awakening. And see, that feels like Flusa to me. Because Flusa is that it's being asked. It's the question. It's the almost intrusive thought of something not being right. And then we go looking for what is out of place. So Flussa is like the beginning of that awakening, but it's like it becomes self-initiated because it's whether or not we look for it. We could go, yeah, no, everything's fine, like nothing is amiss, or we can go, you know what, yeah, but I don't know what it is, and then we go looking for it. We find platform 9 3/4, and something about the way that that brick is compared to the other brick, it's like, let me go up and touch this brick because it looks different. And then when you go up to touch it, your hand goes through it and you're like, oh, snap. I thought this was a dead end. It's actually a doorway. Then when you get on the other side of that, you know, sometimes you wish you never went through that wall, but that's where you learn to be strong. Oh, gosh. Oh, I was going to show you. I was like, oh, we're not going to get a card this time. It didn't flip out until I cut the deck. So I don't even get to look. I don't even get to look through the cards because the Ace of Swords fell out with the Necromancer. And it's Sacred Cinnabar in this deck. In the Vitruvian edition, it's Sacred Cinnabar. In the Revelations edition, it's the Sacred Word. But it came out with the Necromancer. So I don't even have to look. So it's very like the beginning of the awakening. It's very like literally very on point. Hey Ariel, how you doing? The bottom of the deck is the Ebony Shield, just in case you were curious. I looked anyway. See, but that's the thing. I feel like that illustrates the self initiatory nature of this. Like, that's the Flissa. It's the question. Then we take it upon ourselves to go and go through whatever process to reach whatever realization, revelation we reach. So between yesterday and today, oh, I was like, where did the Sacred Shield or where did the Scarlet Shield go? She's here. Oh, but this is the thing. And then New World Order Saturn is behind this. The Queen of Swords and the Queen of Pentacles. That's the thing. And then the Chancellor is right here. Earth balances out air, water balances out fire. The Shield of Air is here, the Shield of Earth is at the bottom of the deck, but it's at the bottom of the deck. It didn't make an appearance. But again, there's something about this super mystical, and it's not even necessarily mystical, it's an understanding. It's what understanding gives us. If we know that at 5 o'clock, if we know that, if we raise, there's a fundraiser, period, and there is an investor that will match our donation dollar for dollar, and we're trying to raise $5,000 with an understanding that our donation will be matched, we only have to get $2,500 because some external force is going to mirror, match, reflect that 2,500, and we're going to reach a completion. Now, the trick is, it's almost like with the Three of Pentacles and Nine of Pentacles, if we get too complacent or if we get too lazy, it's like instead of us raising that 2,500 to be matched to reach 5,000, we'll raise 1,250 to be matched and reach that 2,500. But there is no second mirror to get us from that 2,500 to the 5,000. It's like we do less. We don't work as hard when we know that something is going to be matched. And so we almost cheat ourselves. But then when the match comes, it's like it can be easy to get upset. Like, I was going to be matched. Like, why am I not at 5,000? And it's like, well, that's because you only did 1,250. So your 1,250 matches you to the 2,500 that you in total were supposed to raise alone. Now, if you have a second backer that matches, then you'll get what, 3/4 of the way there. If you have a fourth backer, that matches, then you'll be there. You know what I mean? Because then your half will sort of be completed 3 times. But if there's like the money that you raise and then the backer that matches, that's the mirror. We have to reach that full 2,500 within ourselves to reach that 5,000. And it feels like that sort of plays out in the Fool, but that was the treadle that came out. That's like literally right here. Again, it's like how we sort of make our choices and decisions, how we walk our path, our journey. Knowing that we're supported, yes, but just because we're supported doesn't necessarily mean that everything will be done for us. And sometimes when we know that we're supported, we do less. We do less so we get less. And it's not Spirit's fault that we're not doing what we know we're supposed to be doing. You know? I don't know. Maybe that last part wasn't necessary, but anyway, the Necromancer was in a show that you just watched. What? I was watching Legacies, and there's a Necromancer in that show. He's not great, but there's a Necromancer in that show. What? He passed? I didn't even know that. I saw, I don't know if it was an article or if it was like a YouTube thumbnail that showed it was like Haggard and the actor that played Haggard outside of the Haggard costume. But I thought it was just like a look what these actors look like outside of costume. I didn't know he had passed. Excuse me. Upsies and downsies and round-aroundsies making you do it. You were watching Legacies too? Okay, yeah. I was watching Legacies, but then I got swept up in a whole nother show. So I kind of paused on Legacies. Um, yeah. But again, like, there is no. But that's also the thing about the because the wolf came out as the watcher. It was funny. I guess it was interesting how that happened because it was like that's when the energy of the watchers was so heavy. Watchers were everywhere. So I combined the wild unknown, tarot, and animal spirits, and I looked for all the owls because the owls were the watchers. But as I was looking for the owls, the wolf was there, and the wolf was just watching. The owls were like almost these markers where if we reach this point, we get this knowledge information, and then we work with that knowledge and information to reach another point, and then we get more and more and more. But the wolf was just watching. And I was like, why is the wolf here? Not doing anything, not saying anything, just deep in the veil, looking at us like. But like again, like when the wolf came out, it wasn't doing anything, it wasn't saying anything, it was just watching. It was just there. Almost like whatever is in the void being illuminated by the sun, it's just there. And there's something about the way that it interacts with light. Again, it's like the brick wall of platform 9 3/4. There's something about that brick that's like it's different. And it's not until you interact with it that you start to begin to understand or realize how different it truly is. But that in and of itself is a portal gateway initiation. That in and of itself leads to who knows what. So it's not like again, it's like it's not something that's it's not that it's not an opportunity that's presented, but it's not forced. And some initiations, it feels like they're like triggered by dark nights of the soul or something like that. So we're kind of sort of forced into an initiation. This one is just here. And whenever I see an Ace of Swords, I like to see how far the crown is from the hilt, because this is where we hold the sword. So if the crown is all the way up here, like this is very like it's not easily accessible. It's not by the hand. It's not where we grab it. But this, it's pretty close. There's not much of a gap. Like there's more that we know than we don't know at this point. What's interesting, again, like what's interesting about this necromancer is there is no scales. There are no scales. The scales are here. It's like you don't have to do this, but if you do, you're going to be judged. You don't have to sign up for the extra hard version of this class, but if you sign up for the extra hard version of this class, you're going to be graded. You're going to be critiqued. You're going to be tried. If you didn't want to be tried, you shouldn't have signed up for the class. And some of our counselors didn't even tell us that it was a class that was offered, but we found a way to initiate ourselves, and things can get rough sometimes. And so maybe that's why this hanged man energy, it feels severe. But it's almost like a we bit off more than we could chew. It's almost like there was just a lot more than we knew or understood. What's also interesting about this day purged is because here in the potential in the fixing of these two kins that create the Ganunga gap that we can walk through, the portal for this potential to be realized, we see these same lines in day purged, but it's like it didn't round out the last part of that. And so instead of it being a kin, we end up with two Ises. And when there's two Ises, it's almost like there's nothing that really comes to be. But when we finish out that last leg, or when we put a little bend in it, when we make it around the bend, then that's when we sort of get an entire sort of portal for us to walk through. And it's interesting because behind day purged is man. So it's like these lines just extend downward. Again, like there's no point for them to connect. They just keep going. And that almost feels like that's what happened when with the Yarna. Because again, on the other side of this potential is fame. Once we reach a certain point on this kin, we have to turn to complete the shape. If we don't turn, we just continue on the same path and nothing changes. And that's what mankind has been doing for a hot second, according to this room. Continuing on the same path with not many changes. And like Swelchness, the past is literally right here. But when we have that flexibility to go with the flow, like universal energies, God, spirit, your ancestors, angels, they will guide you to those paths, to those opportunities. And then because again, this is what we decide to do, this is how we walk our own lives. We can choose not to take those moments and opportunities, and our choices are honored, like cause and effect, It's because sometimes we don't get rewarded that, like, that's free will at play, you know? Sometimes it seems like we like to think that free will is I can do whatever I want to do and I get whatever I want to get. And it's like, yeah, no, that's not how free will works. Like, in order for free will to actually be free will, consequence has to be a thing. Our choices have to mean something. And there's a self empowerment here where we decide within ourselves to make certain choices and decisions to move ourselves on a certain path. And as we round those corners and continue to round those corners, when it comes time for the mirror to sort of reflect and show, that's again when we complete these Ganunga gaps and we go further and further and further into, it's like the further we go down, it's also going to reflect up. Like the more we get to experience up here. But if we don't take advantage of those opportunities, nothing happens. Again, that's the Greco-Roman pantheon. The gods, the deities in that pantheon never matured because Demeter throws a fit and Persephone goes back up to the overworld. So the things that need to happen in the underworld, the deep, deep emotional healing that needs to happen within the self in order to truly get us to a space of happiness, fulfillment, where we don't have to be dependent upon other substances or whatever, where we can truly kick devil energy to the curb and not be bound. It never happens. because we seek a substance or we seek a solution, we seek a guru, we seek a hierophant, we seek a mentor to try to band-aid solve those problems for us. So we never really round that bend and we just continue on the same path. And it's not because we don't know what to do, because we all have enough intuition, regardless of how intuitive you are. You have enough intuition, you have enough of a gut to know when there's something that you're supposed to do. Whether you do it or not is on you. But here, this is like it's been done. And that's why there's this energy of like the river goes a lot deeper. And then we actually sort of hit that source point. So now, see, I had a feeling that as if I just pull all the cards, it would work out. Um, the Knight of Cups, this is the first wolf that we see. This is why I pulled this deck back out, because the wolf is the watcher. Again, like literally at the bottom of the deck, I don't even really get to shuffle or go through it. It's there, but it's an embrace. Like this isn't the watcher that's distant anymore. It's the one that's right there. And it's the Knight of Cups, which is the offering of a cup. The cup being that holy grail, the holy grail that we literally saw in the shining waters that came out with the shining flame, that was further clarified by the chariot that fell out on top of the shining waters. When we learn to drive the horse in the underworld, we gain the strength to drive the horse above ground. Then we become strong enough to pull the chariot of the sun ourselves. And so when that donation is matched, it actually gets us even further into that place. But there's a certain amount that we have to do. We're not responsible for all of it. And I'm not even going to shuffle this deck because at the bottom of the deck is the Hermit with this drum of purification. I actually thought of this card when I was reading the Ten of Swords yesterday, because here's a shaman, literally a shaman with a drum right there. And in the Ten of Swords of the Destroyer, there was the shaman that was the merging of the physical and the spiritual, the underworld and the overworld, the lower and the higher world meeting in the middle world, and us in a position of empowerment because of it. And that goes back to when I used, that was the standstill, wasn't it? Or was it after that? No, that was that. That was the Gate of Sahakiel opening, which is the Fata Morgana falling. And that's when I had to read the cards 3 by 3 by 3. And in the lower world, it was this curse. In the lower world, there is no way to gain an understanding of how much choice we really have and what the power of that choice can really do for us. But when we reach the middle world, when we choose to sort of self-initiate into this second part, that's when we begin to understand. But the power of choice is like, it's immense, it's huge. And it's not always easy to realize that some of the things that we've been through or experienced in some way, some, not all, some of the things we chose for ourselves. Some of the things that hurt us the most deeply, we did to ourselves. And it's especially made more difficult when we come into an awareness of having the self-love to like care. It's like we can have those realizations where we don't even have the capacity to really like feel it, where it doesn't even matter. But once we have the capacity to feel it, then it's like, oh my gosh. But from that point, we get to go further. And again, it's like it removes us more and more and more from that devil energy. But every step along the way is a choice. And it's not always easy. But there is the shaman with her drum of purification. And behind her, speaking of coming into the power and owning our choices, is the emperor. And it's funny because the Empress, like when I first shuffled this deck and there were like 6 majors, the Empress was right next to the devil. The Emperor going through his purification is right next to the shaman. And again, it's like while Venus was busy doing whatever, Mars was actually going through everything that Mars had to do. Mars had to be strong enough to reject Venus so that Venus would finally do what she needed to do. Because with that Mars safety blanket, it's like she didn't have to. Like that was Venus's straight line. Like she would never round the corner, and Mars could never reject Venus, so he would never round the corner. And that's how it's sort of like mirrored and reflected. But anyway, this wasn't necessarily supposed to go here, but it happened, and I don't regret it. It is what it is. The Empress is still with the devil, by the way. The Empress, and then the Five of Cups is right behind her. Like Venus has to reach this point and then pick herself up. And for some people going through this eclipse, maybe that's going to be the spot, because Venus is going to disappear behind the sun. And again, I think Russ said she's going to become the evening star. So that's her descent into the underworld. Like portals work both ways. Either we're going in or we're coming out, you know. But for those who are coming out, it's gorgeous. And congratulations. Your hard work is paying off. It's funny how like all of those other cards, like the necromancers, were literally at the bottom of the deck, but it's taken me a second to find the sun. And the sun is the sun. Oh, well, that makes sense. The sun is the sun, so it will be closer to the top of the deck. Duh. The moon is the moon, so it is going to be at the bottom of the deck. Duh. So never mind. Because I'm pulling from the bottom, going to the top. Hold up. Where's Mithras? I just went through this whole deck. Actually, I'm not going to pull it. I'm not going to pull it. I didn't see it when I flipped through the deck. And again, that's the point here. We have to go through this period of absolute darkness before we find the brightest star. And it's so oxymoronic. Like you would think that the brightest star, like the brightest star would be found at the brightest path, because it's so bright. It just like illuminates everything. But apparently, no, it's not like that. Apparently, it's not that easy. So sorry, I haven't been paying attention to the chat, but y'all know. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, you're not the only one. Like, and I don't think it's always like bad, because I think it's like sometimes we have to be shown, and in the moment where we're shown something, in the times where we truly experience it, we're not necessarily going to have the strength to face it right then and there. You know what I mean? Like especially if it's a revelation of some magnitude. Like we're not, and I don't even think we're expected to just immediately be like, "Oh yeah, no problem." You know what I mean? And so if we have to, it's like whatever we have to do to soothe and comfort ourselves as we come to terms with that realization, like we're given that grace. That's the grace of the divine. But eventually, at some point, if we so choose, we have to make the decision to round that bend and continue moving forward, you know? And however long it takes us to do that is how long it takes us. We're not in a rush. We don't do ourselves, this is literally saying we do ourselves zero favors by rushing into something that we're not ready for. Because the wolf is patient. The wolf has been sitting on the other side of the veil for a hot second, and the wolf is really just now starting to speak. So, I've been going through my own whatever. It ain't like the wolf just came out like, yeah, this is what I'm about. Because Wolf was just there. I'm like, why is the wolf here? Silence. Just staring, just watching. I'm like, okay. Well, I'm going to keep on my journey, Wolf. And again, like Wolf was pretty deep in the veil. So it's like it appeared. And that's the thing about the sun. It's like it's almost like we can, because like again, like we know that our donation will be matched. Like we know that that support and love of the divine is there. And so it's almost like that's what makes it almost extra carrot on a stick because it's like we know that we're going to reach our destination. And it's like the stronger our faith and the stronger all of the things that we need to have, the more sure and certain we are. But sometimes in all of that knowing, it's like we don't do what we need to do to reach the point that we need to reach to be carried the rest of the way. You know what I mean? Like the points where there were only one set of footprints, well, that's where the divine was waiting. So if the divine was carrying us, we had to be where the divine could reach us, right? And again, like that's the thing with the Nine of Pentacles and the Three of Pentacles. It's not just a journey that we go on by ourselves. The divine is there, but the divine can't do everything for us. So we have to do our part, and then we also have to be open and receptive to the divine doing its part. We got to reach our 2,500 so the divine can meet us with 2,500 to get to that 5,000. Or we could do 200 and be met 200 and reach 400. You know, there's no, I don't dictate and determine anyone's path. I'm not any more or less connected to the divine than anybody, and I have no power. I don't command anything, you know. I just pull cards and read energy and do my best to make choices and decisions in my own life that I know will ultimately lead me to what I want. And I try to be strong enough to make the choices and decisions that I know I need to make. And I take my time. Y'all know, y'all see how stubborn I am. I'm just as stubborn with the divine as I am with anybody else, as I am with myself. And eventually I get over it. And I'm like, okay, I'll do whatever. Sometimes it takes me longer than other times, but yeah. And like another thing, a thing about that is like, because I feel like I've reached a period in a certain process of my life where it feels like I'm really beginning to experience something that matches me at a fuller capacity of who I am. And as I am sort of poised for this next expansion in reception, I think back on past experiences and I think back on situations that I thought were great, or I think back on times where I, for a hot second, purposefully chose to make my own path harder, to not do whatever I knew I needed to do. And while at this, it's like while I am preparing myself to step forward, I can see how some of those things hinder me or how some of those things add to the challenge of moving forward. I can simultaneously appreciate everything that I experience while making those choices. You know what I mean? Like while it was harder. And that's the thing about like the stankness and the that came out with the ur. It's like it's again, it's like it's both. While from a certain point of view, yeah, like it keeps us from getting where we know we want to be and stuff, there are also things that we learn there, you know? So ultimately it all balances out, and again, like the divine has much grace. The wolf isn't going anywhere. So yeah, I guess this is it. Phaeton had to take the reins of the chariot and be struck down by Zeus in order to sink into Eridanus, which maybe it's just like the bottom of Eridanus leads to um, Hades. And while he was there was something that he learned. But again, it's like Persephone has to be in the underworld long enough for those changes to happen. It's almost like the underworld is capable of growing more than just pomegranates, but Persephone is only down there long enough for the pomegranates to grow. And it's funny because they have to bloom later. It has to like just be the plant. But I'm noticing like all of these red berries. I don't think they're holly berries. Holly berry. Halle Berry, what? I don't think it's Catwoman. Um, but like as the leaves are changing color and as the leaves are falling, these red berries are popping up like all over the place. Well, not all over the place, but I've noticed them. And I'm like, wow, like those are kind of sort of coming to fruit late, right? But everything in its own time, everything in its own season. And again, like that's another reason why it doesn't really benefit us to think of ourselves as less than or to punish ourselves for however long it takes us to do whatever. We come into it at our own time, and our own timing is perfect for each of us. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Um, I do want to read this Scarlet Shield, though, because I'm just curious. The Scarlet Shield is the Sanctum of the Valiant, it's the Queen of Swords. What's interesting is, though, in the SKT, water and earth are female, fire and water are male. Water and earth are masculine, water and earth are feminine, fire and air are masculine. So the Queen of Swords is actually a king. Like, this is male. All of the queens are shields, and then the archangels are archangels. You know what I mean? So they don't really, they're archangels. But this Queen of Swords is it's a masculine energy. So the Scarlet Shield Sanctum of the Valiant, it consists of an ornamental Mesoamerican style mosaic mask made of precious stones and talismanic designs of a chimali or chimai, I don't know, or defensive armament. The head imagery at the base of the shield is also a subtle reference to the head of Holofernes in the biblical story of Judith, which is often associated with the tarot Queen of Swords. Who is? I know Ruth. Who is Judith? It's fine. Above the mosaic is the depiction of an eagle devouring a serpent, an important divine omen of establishing dominion under the blessing of the gods. It's fun. Like this is establishing dominion under the blessing of the gods, where in the Ten of Swords, the Destroyer again, it was those drums of purification that prepare our vessel to receive a divine gift. With that divine gift, we come into eagling the snake. And I kind of wasn't gonna. It's fine anyway. I'll just I'll just keep reading. It's fine. I don't want to get distracted and lose it. So, according to the legend, the Aztlan, Aztlan, who would become known as the Aztecs, were guided by their god, I'm not even going to try, the god of the sun and of war, to seek out their new home, which they would find when they saw the omen of an eagle devouring a serpent. And when they saw such an omen, they found Tenochtitlan. Again, I don't know how to pronounce it. So let's try to get into. Like, she puts a lot in this. A shorn one, an Aztec eagle warrior, is the guardian of the Scarlet Shield. Here, instead of wearing the head of an eagle, the eagle reference is on the shield. The body armor was typically yellow, but here the spirit guardian wears scarlet. Um, Quetzal bird feathers, gold and precious stones such as jade on the headdress, indicating the warrior's priesthood, nobility, and prestige. Uh, Obsidian blades are so sharp that so in addition to the sword, he also carries a wooden club outfitted with obsidian blades. The obsidian blades are so sharp that the wooden club could decapitate a man or horse in one swipe, which is interesting. Here's the decapitation, here's the hanging, right? Of Kurda, which I was like, well, that's 24 degrees. That's like too late anyway. I'll read that part again. According to Ptolemy, Cepheus is like Saturn and Jupiter. It gives authority and a sober mind, sometimes making its natives judges or arbitrators, but exposes to cruel and severe trials. If Mars afflicts the luminaries from Cepheus, especially if in an angle, it causes death by hanging, decapitation, crucifixion, or impalement. So death by hanging is hang true. Decapitation is right here. Impalement could be by the spears in the potential. I mean, it's literally speared, so we can be impaled by the spears. Crucifixion isn't here. Not that we necessarily go. I mean, no, that's a cross, but it's not crucifixion. Well, that's Jesus, you know. Crucifixion is the price that spirit pays. So, you know, spirit got that one for us, so we don't have to suffer that thing. But 3 out of 4, oof. Did I just get corrected? Was spirit just like half? No, we'll compensate you for a fourth of it. So you got to do 3/4 of the work. Maybe there was a point in time where spirit was like, oh, you know, you do half, we'll do half, but there were so many 1250s trying to get 5,000 that spirit was like, okay. So when we tell you to do half, you do half of half. So we'll flip that where if we tell you to do 3/4, then maybe you'll do half because you'll do a quarter less. It's like, well, a quarter is half of a half, not necessarily subtracting a quarter. But they're like, in order to simplify the math, we'll subtract a quarter. So you do 3/4, and then we're like, oh, okay. So we end up doing half, and then they reflect the half. So we actually get what we were supposed to get, and then they come in and get us to that 5,000. You know, maybe not. I don't know. Who am I? I'm just some dude reading, literally reading from a book that somebody else wrote, pulling cards that somebody else made. And Russell is one of those somebodies. Oh my gosh, right? Even though Russell would say that the Runes was a community collaborative effort. So this is capable of decapitation. The Scarlet Shield is an angelic power who appears to the keeper in male form. This is the power and authority of air. This air that protects, safeguards, nurtures, and defends. Um, when the Scarlet Shield appears to you, it is a gateway to the sanctuary of a reimagined Mexica Tenochtitlan to study and learn here, where the most powerful among the Shorn ones will train and guide you. This is the sanctum of the valiant, where you'll learn combat strategy from this warrior priest. This is the sanctuary where you'll learn to train to become more of a fighter. So, the spirit of the Scarlet Shield will show you how to build yourself up to achieve such esteem among your peers that no one will dare challenge your positioning. This is the sanctum for nurturing and mentoring the valiant. That part where it's like, uh, build yourself up to achieve such esteem among your peers that no one will dare challenge your positioning. That makes me think of the bear that came out with the queen or whatever. Because it was like this really, really good energy, but then the bear came out with so much force. But like that's where we become sort of confident enough, strong enough within ourselves that regardless of what is happening outside of us, we will reach whatever point we're going to reach. So anyway, you appreciate the math reference? No wonder you're confused. See, because it's like, and then like, if we're like, oh, like if we put in half and we get a quarter, then like they're doing half, but then spirit's like, no, we're not doing half. We're subtracting off a quarter. Like we'll handle a quarter of it. Like Jesus was already crucified, so you ain't got to do that. But as far as the hanging and the decapitation and the impalement, but because we were always at half, it's like we thought it was one thing and it's something completely different. But like the kicker is then spirit is like, yeah, it was actually a half, but we have to tell you that it was three quarters so that you would do that much, and then we would come in and match. And it's like, well, why? See, when Patrick has a conversation with spirit, it's always like, well, why didn't you just tell me whatever? And it's like, because if we told you whatever, then would you have done it? and, and sometimes I got to be honest and be like, probably not. If I had known, if I had known that all of this was going to entail all of this, would I have done it? Maybe there's a universe where I didn't need to be encouraged so strongly to do the things that I know I need to do, but also at the same time, you're listening to the very same person that told y'all that if y'all watch me, y'all should know how stubborn I am. So was it necessary? Yeah, kinda, in a way. But and that's why at some point it's like I want to be fluid enough. I want to like slip into that Piscean fluidity enough to not need to be encouraged so strongly all the time. So I'm going to work on that within myself because I'm tired of it's like the hard way. I'm like, oof, like Rob said, I'm looking for not necessarily for an easy way out, but if it don't have to be difficult, I'm not necessarily trying to make anything harder on me than it needs to be, even though I kind of sort of make things harder on me than it needs to be all the time because I procrastinate or whatever. But like I said, I'm breaking it. I'm breaking the habit. Whatever that song is, right? So anyway, an hour and 32 minutes, and there we go. So that is, oh, look, and then ox support. We are supported. See, look, 1, 2, 3. But if we look at os Godmouth, there are 4. There's this missing part here. Um, it also helps for me to know, to be aware of who I am, just like if I was talking to any other person, especially somebody that knows me. Because if I'm talking to somebody that doesn't really know me, maybe I can convince them. But if I'm talking to somebody that knows me that's going to call me out on my BS, then it's like, yeah, you're right. You're right. Fine, whatever. I wouldn't have done it, but that doesn't mean that you couldn't have just asked. Just because I wouldn't have done it doesn't mean that you couldn't have just been like, hey, like, here's the truth. It makes me think of when my buddy lied to me about how far the British Museum is from Hyde Park. He was like, oh, it's only like a 10-minute walk. He was like, we don't need to get on the tube or whatever. I was like, oh yeah, like, this is my first time. I can take in some sights. I'm down for a 10-minute walk. It's much longer than 10 minutes. And then I had to, right next to him, listen to him tell his now fiance that he intentionally lied to me. I had to hear out of his mouth again that he intentionally lied to me about how short the walk was, because if I thought it was any longer, then I would have wanted to go for a tube or whatever. And I was like, you didn't even give me an opportunity. I don't know how that would have went. I guess if I'm really honest, because it ended up being, I think, about like 40 minutes. And then he was like, oh, it's like 10 minutes away. He's like, oh, we're almost there. Oh, we're almost there. Oh, we're almost there. And I'm like, okay, we've been almost there for 20 minutes. Who are you? Who are you? Huh? So the crucifixion involves the cross, right? The one that we don't have to do. Guess what rune just came out? Just flipped out face down. And this is the gift. We are so graciously, Spirit was generous enough to send God's only begotten Son so that we don't have to suffer through that fate in particular. That's the gift right there. And then the harvest again at the bottom of the deck under that. Ooh, under with the all rune under the harvest. Interesting. So yeah. I guess I'll timestamp final cards at 1:35? Question mark. Oh, why does this feel looser? Am I missing rooms? Oh, I probably stretched it out to put it on my hair. Yeah, I think I did. I think I stretched it out. Oof. That's funny. I'll just have to, boom, hit it with one of those. Boom. Hey, now you're not going anywhere. Now I'm not going to have runes just slipping out all willy nilly. I'm going to timestamp this real quick. Enough of my keyboard is actually, well, we'll see. Yeah, because I'll move these over here. Give me a second. Mithras never came out. I'm like high key tempted. I'm high key tempted to look. I'll look back through it. I feel like it's like, go ahead, look back through it. The video is 0000. The end is 1:35:00. There you go. So let's do this one first. I'm gonna put all the cards back in and no. Look who's at the bottom of the deck. The Queen of Swords. The Queen of Swords is that Scarlet Shield that I just read about. Oh, I'm not shuffling it. Okay. Mithras, where are you? See, here is, I think this is Horus. But we're not looking for Horus. We're not looking for Helios. We're looking for the sun beyond the sun. Oh, look at this. So judgment is with the moon. That's Persephone. Persephone is with judgment. Interesting. Interesting. Oh. So I found Mithras. So one of the cards that Mithras is with is this Ace of Swords. So it's almost like the same way that we just stumble upon question mark, the knowledge that initiates us into this initial path is the same way that while we're in it, we'll get initiated into the like next whatever. On the other side of that is the Four of Swords. And again, we see the person cuddled up next to the wolf. Deep in the forest, deep in the darkness, they find the light. And this is like when we get this comfortable, when we get Four of Swords comfortable in this position or in this environment, that's when the realization comes in. And that's when, we get to, I don't want to say we get to pull the chariot that Apollo himself wasn't strong enough to pull, but that's when we reach some level of enlightenment. And because it's that Four of Swords, it's going to be different for all of us. It's going to be unique to each of us because our darknesses are all different. Or I'm assuming it's going to be different for all of us. Like I said, I'm just one person. Who am I to speak for everybody? Who am I to speak for anybody but me, honestly? Okay. There we go. Oh, gosh. It looked like two cards flipped over. Ooh. I saw that card when I was shuffling. It's the Five of Swords. I thought it was the Seven, but it's the Five. So the second card that flipped over, surprise, surprise, surprise. It's the Holy Grail. It's the Ace of Cups. It's the Wellspring. It's that what we find in that darkest sort of spot. The other card that came out is the Five of Swords. It's interesting that the Five of Swords comes out with this Ace of Cups because the Five of Swords speaks of excessive force. That excessive force, it almost reads like it's a state of mind, and it's the sword, so it's a state of mind, right? So the whole thing, the whole premise is that we want $5,000. We're raising $5,000 for whatever. We find a backer who's going to match our donation dollar for dollar. And it's funny because when I first mentioned that, I was going to say that it matches us dollar for dollar up to a certain amount, but I never put that caveat on it. But anyway, so we find our backer and it matches us dollar for dollar. And we won 5,000, so we go, okay, so I only got to raise 2,500, and then I get what I want. What's interesting about this is because of the excessive force of the Five of Swords, this is us raising $5,000 to be matched $5,000 to get $10,000, or it's us raising $10,000 to be matched 10,000 to get 20,000. That excessiveness, it feels like it's us doing more than what was required, but subsequently receiving more than we could have ever even imagined, almost in some way. And again, like that's why it's a state of mind. Sometimes if we're being matched, it depends on where we put the goal, almost. Rather than, again, just like seeing how far we can go. It's like regardless of if it's matched or not, I'm gonna do my best to do whatever. Whatever we do, it's gonna be matched. Hey David, how you doing? I mean, sometimes I like to. You see this? Y'all remember how I mentioned Orion? Right? Oh my gosh, this is why I wasn't supposed to be distracted. Because it comes in at the end of the video. See, Spirit is literally illustrating what I was talking about. It's like, oh, like we know that we're gonna be matched. So like, oh well, let me just find it up here. And it's like, no, don't be distracted. Go through the video, do everything you gotta do, whatever. I forgot that I was even looking for the Eight of Wands, the sharpshooter. Because the left foot of Orion dips into Eridanus, which is the same river that Phaeton fell into. It's the same river that the trees that represent his sister turned into. And we saw Poplar right there, you know? But here's, and not only is it an Eight of Wands, it's an Eight of Wands that also depicts another hunter. Not every Eight of Wands does that, but there he is. There's the Orion that I forgot I was even looking for. And this Orion more so because of who it's accompanied by, right? Wait. I'm just the dude that makes the biscuits. That's I'm just the dude that makes the biscuits. That's my favorite. That's my favorite. I don't even know if that was real or not, but that was hilarious to me. I didn't even get to read the book. I pulled out the book too. Darn it. What I'll do is I'll read that little bit about Helios so you can sort of get where I'm coming from. I did not know. Boob all out. Oh, I don't know if I've ever really seen the devil card in this deck. So I guess I wouldn't know. Oh, the moon is Hecate, sorry. That's the code of Hecate. It's not Persephone. Persephone is on the High Priestess. I feel like I confuse those two all the time. Maybe Persephone could be a Hecate if she was ever allowed to like be her own person. But her mom's like, no, you're my daughter, and that's all you are. It's like, okay, well, thanks, mom. I'll never be my own person. I'll never. Why? I never. Anyway, I don't have to get all into it. I don't have to get all into it. Mighty funny. You gotta risk it if you want the biscuit. Anyway, so I'll just read this. Open your eyes, mortal, and they will be blinded. Keep them closed, and you shall surely die. You cannot live without light, not light from the stars, from the moon, or even the sun, but pure and holy light, white hot and scourging. Fiery truth light from the realms beyond the sun. It is from here that all truth comes, and it is from here which your soul descended into birth, trapped in that rock of a world, a womb tomb in which you will truly die without my salvation. I am the revelation of the universe in its glory. I am the earth shaker, bull tamer, equinox pusher. Where I step, I burn the life in my path. Yet all grows beneath me. I revealed myself to you, and the sevenfold rays of light illuminate you, that I might bid you to take the first step of the ladder that will lead you to the truth beyond truth. I make open to you the doorway of the temple that you might descend into its starry cave, and in the darkness see the mysteries illuminated. I destroy the force that holds your soul here, striking away the chains that bind you. I may burn you. It's funny. It reads, "I destroy the force that holds your soul here, striking away the chains that bind you." And I was literally just like, "What card is this?" And I'd never see the devil in this deck anyway. Maybe that's why, because Mithras was like, "Well, why would you need to? The chains are broken anyway." I may burn you. You may turn your face away from my light, but you will soon know that you are my soldier, and you will share a feast with your brothers of the sun in my name. You are a soldier, you'll share a feast with the brothers of whatever, going back to the Valkyries that take the worthy ones to Valhalla, going back to the Scarlet Shield, which was the Shorn ones, training us and all of that stuff, right? So interesting. Let all elements of earth, air, and rushing fire be obedient unto me. I am the mighty one who possesses immortal fire. I am the one who begets and destroys. Come forth and follow. For I am the moment of revelation, the mystery that is revealed at the end of all, and that which is found in the center of all. Found in the center of all, going back to that when we sit in the middle, when we sit at source, it all flows in. But under the harvest rune is the all rune. And I saw this and I was like, oh, the all rune. I didn't mention it, but I saw it. There's weird or word, the all rune. And again, like this was the card that was like, when it comes time to reap the harvest, that's when the mirror gets put up. And that's when the kin is reflected and it creates a Gununga gap. It creates a void, it creates a portal, it creates a doorway. you know? So anyway. Hecate returned to your field this week too. Oh snap! I know. I almost went to go see him today too. I should probably go tomorrow. I need to do everything I need to do today because, like I said, there's a greater than 0% chance that I might be doing something this weekend. There's a less than 100% chance that I will, but it's a greater percent than zero that I'm not. So that was the entry for Helios. Yeah, and I guess I'll just end it there. I was gonna read um, how it's like, that was the entrance for Mithras. Sorry, the sun beyond the sun, and it's interesting because again, it's like the star was Phaeton trying to do what his father did, which was Helios, but Mithras is beyond Helios. Anyway. Like I said, I'm hungry. One more second. Death. Oh, it is almost Scorpio season. All right. Revelations edition. What say you? Last and final. Okay. No. The hallowed flame. The awakening. Ace of Wands. Bottom of the deck is the Vagabond. Five of Orbs. There's 100% chance that you'll be doing a million things this weekend. Nothing fun. No. Well, there's a should be 100% chance that I should be doing something that I need to do this weekend because December 16th is currently approaching. But I feel more inspired lately than ever, so I probably will. You know what? There is a 100% chance that I will do something that I need to do this weekend, even if that thing I need to do is rest. Because I've been overworked. But I will also do something in addition to rest this week. I went to bed at almost like 3 or 4 in the morning yesterday, and I woke up at like 9. And that's why I'd be like still tired through the week because I don't even rest on the weekends. So yeah, even if the thing that I'm doing is rest, there's a 100% chance that I will do something. Ooh, you just got a new blanket. I want to get I kind of want to get a new mattress. But my mom was like, well, you should wait until you move to get a new mattress. And I was like, yeah. Anyway, it's fine. This is interesting because in the Nine of Swords, the Haunt, we saw almost the same thing. This card is popping up everywhere lately. The Bread of Life, Ace of Pentacles again. I mean, it was coming up with the Herald of Pentacles, but now it's just there. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Some of these cards today, it's like, if I go, oh, look, well, there she is. There's the sharpshooter. Okay, well. Look at this. That's the Five of Swords. The sharpshooter is with that, the one that's like not overcompensating, but that's interesting. Oh, and then behind the Five of Swords is the Nine of Swords. The Nine of Swords is with the devil. But behind the devil is the tower, and behind the tower is the Archangel of Mysteries. Go through the darkest depths and the mysteries will be illuminated or whatever. So, because this card came out yesterday, and it was this energy of like how it felt like there were these good things that were coming in, but the good things were like triggering us to face the things that prevent us from being able to receive good things into our lives. So it's almost like with the Ace of Wands and this Vagabond, it's almost like a very similar energy. Because here's the source of illumination, and there's the shadow that's cast, but this is not this. Like, again, it's similar, but this energy feels different. Um, did I put those back right? No, because this was behind this. Anyway. Well, there's this thing above the church, above the cathedral. It's like a lighthouse beacon, and maybe that's this. And this is the awakening. I'll read the little white book and see. Um, I'll read the little white book and see what this says because I don't necessarily want to go into the full entry, but it feels like there's something in this hallowed flame. Oh, it's right here. Okay. The Ace of Scepters. A switch inside you has turned on your creativity, productivity, and ingenuity. Fire is alchemizing in your world, materializing as a creative project, an innovative new venture, a birth, entrepreneurship, or the spark of inspiration for a passion project. This is also a new direction in career development. This is the awakening stage of your path. New knowledge is attained. Divine reason is the light in your eyes. Take the necessary beginning steps to transform a dream into your reality. Start a new journey, and a new chapter of opportunities will unfold. What's interesting about this is it's almost the opposite of the Nine of Swords. Because the Nine of Swords was, and that was like Mithras. Mithras was like, um, it's blinding and it can hurt the eyes, so we close our eyes or whatever. But it's the opposite in the Nine of Swords because it feels like the Nine of Swords was the one that was blinded, and so it turned away. But here, it feels like the warmth that's radiating from this is actually going to draw us inside of the building. And look, there's an open door. One of the doors is open. One of the doors is closed, but one of the doors is open. Why does this? So low, 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 low key. Not low key. Low key. Y'all remember when Reem did that live? And there was the symbol that came out. And she was like, what is this symbol? It's not exactly this, but it makes me think of the pattern on that door. You can see it on the closed door. It makes me think of that. It's not exactly that, but it makes me think of that. But anyway, that's what this feels like. It feels like we're finally going to be, I don't know if it's like we're cold enough or we're hungry enough that we're like, you know what? Even though I don't usually like taking handouts or whatever, even though I don't usually like asking for help, even though, I'd much prefer to do it all on my own, I'm going to go for it. And so we go in and we experience what Jasmine experienced on that carpet when Aladdin was showing her the world. So anyway. Wait, what? Oh, snap. You got a nanny? Nice. Ooh, take a little break. You deserve it. Okay. A new bed and a nanny. So, like with the nanny, you can actually enjoy the new bed. Oh, sometimes. Oh, goodness. And you have a baby that sleeps through the night. What? Get all that rest. You deserve it. The bottom of the deck is the Knave of Cups, which we already like. The Knave of Cups was at the bottom of the deck before. This is the page. The Knave is the page, right? That's not the Knight. This is the page. I saw KN and I assumed it was the Knight. So yeah, like this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. The card that came out, guess what card came out? The card that came out is the Sun. The Sun came out. You see that? The Sun. And what's on the Sun? This white unicorn horse just waiting for a rider to come and, tell the horse where to go. I love that. And so maybe it isn't Apollo's chariot. Like maybe Phaeton gets his own chariot. I don't know. But there's something about this. Who is this? Temperance. Temperance was left in the box. The only card that wasn't there. And look at Temperance. Temperance has found the light. Maybe this is it being offered. Maybe this. It's like in Disney's Hercules when Zeus basically created Pegasus for Hercules as a gift. And then when Hercules starts his journey, the first thing that returns from his life in the heavens before he was abducted is Pegasus. Is the gift from the dude who shot down Phaeton. But I don't know if the energy of Temperance, if these are like the same energy, or if the horse is the gift, the unicorn is the gift that we then ride. But again, it was like with Phaeton being in the underworld, learning to master or becoming strong enough to pull the under chariot, he becomes strong enough to, in turn, pull the chariot of Apollo. But his chariot isn't going to have the two white horses that Apollo's has. His is going to have one of the horses from the under chariot and one of the horses from the over chariot. So again, like he's already mastered. And then again, in this deck, in the strength card, in strength, it was on top. The rider is on top of the dark horse. But in the night that came out, the rider was beside it. But again, it just feels like it echoes and mirrors that energy. Like if you've already done everything that you need to do to be in the position to receive the things that are presenting themselves to be received, it's like, yeah, we're human and adjustment is always a thing. And, maybe we get freaked out because it's like, whoa, this is too good. It's too much all at once or whatever. But It's like, take it. For the love of everything that you've already done, take it. For the love of not making things any harder. For the love of a life that you'll love and enjoy, take it. Like that old Jupiter energy is gone. So the old Jupiter energy is transformed. So it's not that we necessarily just like get and receive and get and receive and oh my gosh, it's too good to be true, and then everything falls apart. Yeah, well maybe before, but like, we've earned it. We deserved it. Oh, snap. Welcome back. You're all healed. I was gonna make a sound, but Russ already did it. I'm glad he made it to Canada. I remember like when I first came across Corey, and I feel like Rob did a reading for him. I think it was Rob. And Rob was talking about him being in the desert. So I'm glad he's out of the desert. I don't remember. It was a minute ago. It was a minute ago. Your favorite Leo. It's Corey. There's death again. I saw the Reaper in the Vitruvian edition. Okay. The last deck of the last deck. A fave of mine, and maybe not yours. The SKT Vitruvian edition. What do you mean what happened to Corey? I don't know. Wait, did something happen? Excuse me. All right. Vitruvian. Oh, okay. I was like, Vitruvian edition. You're not going to talk to me? So at the cut was the Reaper, Death, and the Nine of Cups, Jupiter and Pisces, right? The card that flipped over is Saturn in Pisces, which is the defector, which is the Eight of Cups. What is the Eight of Cups heading to? And the darkest of the dark, illuminated only by the constellation of Pisces and this barely lit moon. It's the wellspring, the Ace of Cups, the Holy Grail. Maybe I should hold it this way. It's the wellspring, the Ace of Cups, the Holy Grail. In the darkest of the dark, it's illuminated. See, this is the shining flame, right? This was the other horse that came out. It was the Knight of Cups and the Knight of Wands. The Knight of Cups energy we've already seen. Here's the other horse. That's what waits us down there. So anyway. There's something about this. So I was reading an entry for the Eight of Cups in another deck, and it talked about how it was like 5 cups and then 3 cups, and it talked about how there was intentionally a gap that was placed in the cups, and it was to symbolize something. So I look at how these cups are placed. Now these cups, there are no gaps here because it's 3 and then 2, but then there's 3 up here. It feels like there's this extra dimensional element, because it's like, how are we supposed to put 3 cups on top of 2 cups? Like, but it's like, it's something about the way that they're like, it's because they are gathered this closely together. It makes this flat image, it gives this flat image depth. I mean, it's not necessarily flat because we see this in the foreground and this in the background, right? but in the foreground, it gives us even more depth. So it's like these cups that haven't yet fallen onto these two, it's like they're gonna fit on there in a way that we don't currently have the capacity to understand. And it's a three of cups on top of a five. The three of cups on top of a five feels like it's extra nine of swordsy because the five of cups is so in its isolation. It's so in its isolation in a very visceral, emotional way that the five of pentacles, it's almost like with the five of pentacles, you might be so hungry that you don't notice how alone you are. But with the five of cups, it's almost those like when you're not alone, but you're still lonely energies. But the three of cups is like the opposite of that. And again, it's almost like that three of pentacles, nine of pentacles energy. But it's like on top of that isolation too, or like it's like if we experience so much otherness to the point where it makes it difficult for us to even imagine what community feels like. And like, we can find community with each other through media such as this, but to like a in person, and it's not that these connections are any less valuable than in-person connections, but there's something about being in an energy in a place in the world that makes it seem more like, for some maybe, that it's possible to have that experience in the world, right? Because it's almost like when it's here, it's something that we have to like seek out away from everything else. And so, in some way, maybe it feels, I don't want to say it feels like we'll never experience this in real, not in real life, because this is real life, but like we'll never experience it in the world. But it's almost this energy. It's like the world is capable of providing experiences beyond the ones that we've already had, but we can't be so attached to the ones that we've already had that we don't allow ourselves to experience it, to experience the ones that we want to have. Like it's possible for this three of cups to be placed right on top of that five to complete the eight, which opens us up to connection in a way that we've never necessarily felt before. And that's why it's the ace. That's why it's just like the pure potential of connection. Because whatever, and it's like, it feels like even if we have felt connection before, even if we haven't necessarily experienced so much isolation, there's still a depth of connection that's making itself available. That creates that whole new world. But because it's the Eight of Cups, it reads like it's not creating a whole new world because it reads like the opportunity is already there. It just opens us up to experiencing that side of the world or those facets. I don't know. Anyway. Excuse me. He has emerged in Ontario. Excuse me. So that is Phaeton, Akamar, Akranar, Eridanus with the side of Orion and everything else. Helios. And again, because I know there was an energy for a hot second that was like, it was like there's something that we're doing with a specific goal, intention, or like there's a certain destination that we have in mind, but it actually gets us a lot further. And it's something about that flume, something about that super stream that'll carry us a lot farther. And again, it's almost like with Helios being the sun beyond the sun, it's just like better than we could have imagined, better than we could have hoped, better than we could have dreamed. Opportunities that lead to opportunities. Like it's that drop in the bucket. And it's in no small part because of our participation. So, excuse me. No problem. Thank you. I'm always like, I'll get these ideas and then I'll be like, I don't know how this is going to work out. And then they do, unless they don't. But quite often they do. And I feel like that in and of itself illustrates a certain point because it did come together on its own in a way. Like I knew enough of what I wanted to do, or I was guided enough in what to do that it completed the picture. And it was what originally seemed like disparate yet connected, but separate parts that all sort of, it came together. It came together. Mighty fine biscuits indeed. I went to get fast food breakfast today, and most fast food breakfast places close at like 10:30. And I was like, oh, this one place that I've been wanting for like 2 weeks now because the one on the way to work has been closed. They stopped serving at 11. So I was like, oh, today, like, I'm going to go out of my way. I'm going to go all the way out of my way to go to the other one because it's 10:20. And I pull up and the person's like, hey, like, what can I get you? And I'm like, good morning. I say, good morning. And she's like, oh, just so you know, we don't have any breakfast. And I'm like, okay, well, never mind. Thanks. And she was like, oh, sorry. I'm like, it's fine. It was like 10:30 something at that point. All I had to say was good morning for her to know that I was there for breakfast. Luckily, though, because that's a tight drive through. There's like, once you get in that drive through, you're not getting out. So, luckily, nobody was in front of me because then I would have just had to like sit there and wait to leave. You know what I mean? But anyway, it'll happen at some day. I don't know why. I just, because what you said biscuits, and I'm kind of hungry, and it made me think of breakfast biscuits. So that's why I went on that whole tangent. But I didn't end up getting that, but I did end up going to Starbucks. So I got my Starbucks, and I went on my walk, and I put a different cup in a different trash can. At some point, there's going to be a Starbucks cup in every garbage at that cemetery. And I'll be able to pick out the cup and look at the date and be like, oh my gosh, yeah, this, I'm just playing. I'm not gonna, but I did. I walked by one of the garbage cans, I think last week or the week before, and I saw a Starbucks cup and I wanted to like flip it over to see if it was mine, but I wasn't gonna touch it. So, but I was like, who else is leaving Starbucks out here? You know what I mean? So anyway, I hope you all have whenever you see this, whatever you want to have, I hope you have it. Um, and not only do I hope you have it, I hope that you give yourself the grace to allow yourself the process of getting it. And in that process, I hope you the confidence and courage. I hope you the, I guess, guidance and direction. I hope you the comfort, both in that like it's not too difficult and the comfort of in those difficult moments. I hope you find some peace. Um, yeah. And until next time, thank you all for being here. It was interesting. It was interesting.